Hey everybody. Whew, felt like I got bit. I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, welcome to my channel. It's good to see everyone. Well, when you get into a habit of just like talking in front of people, it's like so good to see everybody. But it's been an interesting day. The reason why I just jumped on here is just to share some thoughts that I had on a conversation that I had earlier with a guy. He's a new friend of mine, and again, interestingly enough, I've met him here at the coffee shop, Crave. You guys ever want to get some good coffee? Yes, Crave Coffee and Tea, Corona, on the corner of Maine and Ontario. But seriously, the owner here, she's amazing. Inette, she loves her staff, loves her customers, and this is a place like Karate Brothers. It's a place in Alaska, a coffee shop, where a lot of people would meet, come talk, and it's just a solid place. So if you're looking for a good, solid place to get some coffee, some tea, some good conversation, Crave Coffee and Tea. So anyway, today, Crave Coffee and Tea. I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was asking me. He said he's a Hispanic guy, Hispanic man, and it was interesting. He said, I want to put my feet in the shoes of a black man and ask you a question. I said, okay. So he asked me. He said, and thinking about the rioting, the protesting, and the looting. He said, what do people gain? And my immediate response was like, well, nothing. But then I thought about it again. I was like, wait a minute. An illusion. And so that's where this thought comes from. And so I'm going to read it to you and talk a little bit more about that. Illusions only last as long as the affect and effect that they give. So maybe we should rethink the ideas of protesting, rioting, and looting in any of our communities until we see that we, the people, are not as powerless as we have been led to believe. So, some of the conversations that I've had today about that is this idea that, of course, like social media, but think about it. Just about everybody, I would say 90% of the globe, to some extent, uses social media, right? And just like anything that tends to be a platform for something, has the propensity to become abused, misused by anyone to some extent. And so I say that to say, we really don't want to just throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? Or just completely say, well, all social media is bad. I'm just not listening to any news, and all news is bad news, and there's no good news. And those are all subpoints to the main issue. We have to still be able to discuss and talk, and on a microcosmic level. Like I was talking with one of the young ladies that works here at Crave. She's cool as all get out. She was watering the plants here. And she asked me what I thought about rioting, looting, protesting. And I told her what I thought, and I said, but change doesn't really happen as we desire it to happen on a macrocosmic level, on the large level. Like we can go to a protest, but if we only go to a protest or gosh, man, I keep forgetting out on a protest and a riot, right? And I'm not for looting. Rioting is contextual. for what there is, and protest, I'm for protest. Um, but I said, if we go to these events and we only go to the event thinking that that's going to be the main change that's going to happen, then we've been misled, because it has to happen with this back and forth conversation. And I said, even so much so as 2 to 12 max people actually talking, somebody you sit down and really have a good solid conversation with, a good, I respect you, you respect me, we may not agree on everything, but we can sit at the table of brotherhood, sistership, and talk about it. One of the things it's a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, I can say it's a pet peeve. It's not the biggest thing in the world. But when folks say, well, let's just agree to disagree. And I'm like, that's just really a nice way of saying we disagree. So when we sit down and somebody's not willing to just, sit with the pleasantries of, well, let's just agree to disagree. Now I feel better and you feel better, right? I disagree. It's a nice way of saying we disagree. It's almost like, saying, I don't want to join a denomination, I just want to go to church. So I go to a non-denominational church, which is a denomination. Let's just skip over it, call a spade, man. I remember I was walking out of work one day, and there was this guy. Funny enough, he worked for the FBI. He probably still does. But we were talking about President Trump, and he was talking about how he was going to vote, and he said, so I guess you'll be voting for, forgot what Democrat he talked about. For the Democrats, since you're a Democrat, so I'm not a Democrat. And he got shocked. He got really shocked. He was like, but you're black. I kid you not. That's what he said. But you're black. As if because I'm black, I have to vote Democratic. And so, but here's the point. I could be that short-sighted about other things too. So I don't want to just lift up this brother's short-sightedness of political affiliation. What I want to do is lift up that I have a mind. I have a thought process. So anyway, jumping back to when I was, talking with the young lady earlier, it's like if I can't do this with other people, if we can't do this on a microcosmic level first, then protesting, rioting, and looting isn't going to change absolutely what we desire to have changed. The short term, we believe that as long as we feel the effects and the affects, there was a good protest, good riot, good whatever, and then it wears off, as it will, the euphoria, the feeling, to some degree, is going to wear off. But looking down the line, seeing what kind of effects there are. Say, for instance, like I remember seeing there was a small business owner, and it was an Asian dude, right? And he owned a clothing store, a small business owner, right? And he said in the report, he said, please don't destroy my business. This is my only thing. This is how I feed my family. This is everything I do. Please. And they pushed him aside after he begged, please don't take away my livelihood. They destroyed his livelihood, and he wept on camera as he explained, I can't start over again. That's what happens when we go and join these riots and protests and even looting. When we don't sit down and have these conversations, candid conversations. I don't care what you think, what side you're on. We're first human beings. And if I'm a human being and you're a human being, that also then means that people are people and I'm a people too. In other words, I got issues just like everybody else. And you got issues just like me. Though they may be different for different reasons, or in some for the same reason, is enough for us to say, well, let's sit down and talk about it. And let's discuss it. Because I think we have been mosquito. I think that we've been, to some degree, me included, duped into believing that we have to take a social media mentality approach to a rudimentary humanitarian level issue. History continues to show us that we're repeating history. We can espouse the old adage, if you don't know your history, you repeat your history, right? We can say that to some level, history is going to be repeated, and I don't think it's necessarily because all of the time because we forget history or we just didn't know the history, but rather because we're broken humans with a broken heart, with a jacked up mind, and with a desire for something greater than what we see right in front of us, that is a detriment to society and personally. One of the things I was sharing with the young lady earlier, I said, if you or I go out and protest, and I'm not against protest, whether or not I'll join it or not, I support people who go and protest. It's your right. As an American, it's your right. Take it, use it. Now, I may disagree while you're protesting, and I may not join your protest, but that doesn't mean I disagree with you protesting. Now, rioting is altogether contextual as well. I could never say that I wouldn't riot for something if I believed in it enough, and I held myself to a standard even within that riot. However, with looting, I believe looting is in the same category as defunding the police. It's a horrible idea because you're stealing away the very essence of a people's community that rely upon the tools that are available in that community to survive, thrive, and to live. So even if I agree with the essence of what got you out looting in the first place, I don't agree with the looting. Now, my point to sharing that and coming back in is that if I'm in a huge group of people, I'm not always a direct representation of the person or people that I am protesting or rioting for. For instance, back in the day when Oscar Grant was murdered at the Fruitvale BART station, I was in college. I was less than a mile away from the Fruitvale BART station, literally. And I remember watching the news, and I remember hearing the gunshots. But I remember people were just out rioting to riot. Not everybody, but you can kind of tell who was out there just doing it because they wanted to raise hell, and who was out there because hell had been raised on them and they were looking for a solution. And that's oftentimes a hard differentiation because we all have hearts. We all have things that make our hearts beat. We all have things that we would die on a hill for. But in order to get to that place, I must understand what I'm standing for and what I will not stand for. One quick example of that would be Black Lives Matter, right? I believe Black Lives Matter. I wrote a poem called Whiplash. I've uploaded it, turned it into a video, and one of the things I say in this poem is, Black lives matter indeed. They matter to me. Can't you see I'm a black man walking in black men's shoes? Now, I am for Black Lives Matter. The organization, however, as they have come out, but even before then, but especially with they're defining themselves this way as a Marxist community, and you can read it on their Facebook, or not their Facebook, but their webpage. I'm not for that. I'm not for that. Tearing down the community because why? You just want to tear stuff up and overthrow the empire that, you know, to some degree we live in, and that's just going to change everything? No. They do more hurt and harm in most cases, the organization, than they do help the black lives that supposedly matter. Black lives matter to me. That means all black lives, irregardless of why the black life is in the predicament that it's in or not. But having those conversations happening with like this, not in the larger group of individuals, because we may all agree with the foundational statement Black Lives Matter, but we may indeed find that we absolutely disagree on how that's really played out in the essence. And so really rethinking when we're rioting, protesting, and when you find yourself or others looting, again, which I completely disagree with, you really have to challenge ourselves to sit down between 2 and 12 people and have candid conversation. What went well? What really went horribly? And what can we do better? Because we're going to become the change we want to see, and we're going to change the narrative. Not only do I believe that it can happen, but quite honestly, I've seen it happen. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And this will be the last thing, because I'm at 18 minutes. I love worship. I absolutely love worship. I love to play music, create music, and I love being a part of a worship team that loves music and worship. So anyway, I was part of this church in Alaska, and I had been hurt in churches before, and I won't go into all that right now. But I remember being a part of this church that I was with, and the worship team, and the worship leader at the time, he was sharing with all of us one day after we had practice. He was like, "Man, I really want to get to know you guys," and da 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 da. And I heard that, and I had heard it before, and I was so frustrated. I was like, so I told him, I said, "Hey, man, don't flatter me. If you mean what you say, then yeah, let's do it. But if you're just saying it to make it sound good, then miss me with that." And thankfully, that actually happened, where between him and I and the rest of the worship team, we started actually getting together on a constant basis, literally weekly, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, because we loved each other and we shared life with each other. And you know what the outcome of that was? There were times where we wouldn't practice for worship at all. Wouldn't have a set ready or anything. We would just show up on a Sunday like, what are we gonna play? And people would throw out songs, 4 or 5 songs. We would all sit down, enjoy each other, and just like, okay, let's play that. And you know what our practice was? It was playing. But we could pick it up and then just enjoy each other and listen to each other, love each other. There's a brother of mine, Ryan Stevens. I love this dude, man. He's in another state, I'm in another state. If he called me today and said, hey Will, I'm in town, I'm in Corona, and tomorrow I've got a worship set, I got 10 songs, and you want to play? Yes. You know what would happen? I would go there and we would first jam. I would have my harmonica, he'd have his guitar. We would just love on each other, jam, have a good time, not even playing through the songs. But then we would set the songs down in front of us and be like, okay, these are the songs. And for harmonica, I just need the key to play and I can play. Set the songs down, pray, well, and invite God into to just move in our hearts and the hearts of the bride, and we would worship. What I'm saying is this: we can have that same intimacy amongst communities within the larger community. And not only can we have it, but we have to move that direction to have it and become a stronger community with each other, for each other, so that we may become the people that we want to be again. Hey everybody, like, subscribe, please comment. It's such a blessing. I'll here soon I'll post up some more poetry and discuss that, but today was just that part of it. But thanks so much everyone. Have a great